Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lewis.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, the 4th of February, and my name is Doug. You're watching the Rangers Journal reaction to Rangers' 5-1 victory over Kilmarnock this evening at Ibrox. Gigas tights, Butland frights, but ultimately Rangers made it a pretty good night. I've got plenty to talk about, a few debuts this evening and some particularly decent ones as well, I'm lucky to say. And to talk about the match with me, I've got my partner in crime, bedecked in his Rangers Journal attire. Good to see you, Marty. How are you getting on, mate?
Fine, thank you. It's nice to be back on again.
Indeed, and joining me in his lovely third kit there is Ant-Man's agent. We've got Stu.
How you doing, Doug?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Glad to see a good performance tonight.
Indeed, we've got kind of another classic Rangers game of two halves. Bit of a frustrating first half, but everything really clicked into gear into the second half, as we will go on to talk about. But Marty, it all started about as well as it could be. I only made one note before the first bit of action, which was indeed about Gigas tights, which we'll not focus too much on. We were talking about it just before we went live there. Don't know if he's lost a bet or something, and he must have been feeling the cold to be wearing that. But as I say, we'll not dwell on it too much. But as I say, Marty, the game kicked straight into gear within the first 3 minutes. Thompson for Kilmarnock makes a challenge on Gassama, takes him down in the box. Gassama's basically right in front of goal, so it fits 100%. The denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and so he, unfortunately for Kilmarnock, gets a straight red card. They're down to 10 within 3 minutes, and then it's a penalty kick, and Tavernier does what Tavernier does and tucks into that bottom corner. We're 1-0 up, and it looks like from that point it could be a good day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great run from Gas to get round down behind the defender, and I don't think the defender had a choice there. It was either take the man down or let him have a shot at goal. So he took the choice, which was obviously detrimental to him and his team, which meant his team were down to 10 men within three and a half minutes. So yeah, you've got to give credit to Gassama for the run through behind the defender. Otherwise, it would have never been a penalty if he hadn't done that. So again, another Tavernier penalty, and again dispatched as Tavernier does. So credit to the pair of them, really.
Indeed, that was it. Were you thinking at that point, Stu, that we were going to go on and have the game that we ultimately had in terms of getting the goals, or are you always wary that we're going to have that kind of frustrating first kind of 45?
Well, given obviously we scored so early, and I was keeping track of it in work, I was hoping for it to be a goal fest, but obviously what then became the first half, that kind of dogged and kind of here we go again type thing, and then obviously the first half was what it was, and I still thought kind of positive going into the second half, hoping that they'd make some subs and we could the team would drive on. But I thought we would have maybe got a wee bit more from the first half. But credit to Kilmarnock, they get in. It's well known. It's a kind of common saying in football, playing against 10 men is a nightmare. But I think Kilmarnock could really keep that up really to the end of the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really going to focus much on the first half because, as I say, it pretty much plays out on the whole the same, which is we make decent enough play to the edge of the box, but then just fail to have a decent final ball. We're constantly either putting it just past the player, just too far in front, or hitting a Kelly defender, and that was really the entire story of the first half. But one thing I would like to touch on, Marty, was that Kelly, down to 10 men, you expect them to maybe just set up shop to try and keep themselves in the game at 1-0 down. But there were times in that first half where Kelly really, really just easily passed their way through the Rangers team, and one or two, at least two chances I remember that man in the box free and had, they had their shooting boots on, they could easily have potentially equalised in that first half.
Yeah, quite easily. I mean, if you look at the chances they created in that first half, it was probably, I don't know what the stats were, but it's probably a fair few more than Rangers did in the end. I mean, Rangers had obviously a lot more possession, especially around the 18-yard line in Kilmarnock's half, but it was that final ball that was the problem. But Kilmarnock, to their credit, they dug in, and it's a typical Neil McCann team, really. If you look at his previous teams, that's the way he plays. He didn't change anything. So credit to him for actually going, nah, do you know what? It doesn't matter whether we're 10 or 11, I'm still going to go for this.
Yeah, we've got AGW in the comments there. Terrible attitude after the red. Do you want a little bit more from them, Stu, after the red card, in terms of maybe just being a little bit more aggressive?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Don't get us wrong, Kilmarnock didn't make it easy. And while they defended well, like you said yourself, they were still definitely in the game. I don't know. I think probably, I think every fan probably expected us to run over the top of them once the red happened, and maybe we took for granted that it wasn't going to. We took for granted it would be easier than it was, and maybe that'll be a learning for the team, especially the kind of new guys coming in the team, kind of on this learning curve. I think that's a fair comment, to be honest. I've not got too much to say. I think we should have actually been dealt with the first half better, and especially kind of took the front foot and took advantage once they went down to 10 men. But as I said earlier, it can be hard. Famous Lively says, nightmare, try to break down 10.
Absolutely. As I said, if the first half kind of just basically followed that similar kind of pattern, we got to half time. Were you expecting any changes at half time, Marty?
I thought he'd maybe change it because I think he would be a little bit disappointed that we didn't put the game to bed in the first half. So, yeah, I was expecting a few changes. And if you go from Danny's previous, he likes to make changes at halftime or quite early in the first half. So I was expecting maybe one or two changes. So I wasn't surprised to see changes quite early on.
And Stu, when we did come out in that second half, I don't know about yourself, but I kind of thought it sort of continued the same way for probably the first 10, 15 minutes. We had a couple of decent chances. Giga had a good shot, or did Giga, as Tom likes to call him, had a good shot from outside the box. We had a corner that was worked to Diomande. Again, the edge of the box puts it just wide. Around about 51 minutes, we had about 3 or 4 almost shots in about 30 seconds that kept like hitting defenders and bobbling its way about, and it kind of started for me to feel like it might be one of those nights.
I kind of thought that was us going up a gear, to be honest. I thought we were creating a lot more. I thought we were getting a lot closer in that period. A period where we had, he said it could have been, he could have scored 3 or 4, and Miofsky was just on the wrong side of how many balls and didn't put them away. But I thought that was a real sign of positivity and flair in the team. So I kind of felt something was coming. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it like, yeah, it was more from the first half where we weren't really kind of starting to take the initiative. But I thought, from my point of view, I thought, well, this is something's building here. The team's running, and I thought we were getting close. I thought it was coming. I was just waiting for it, and obviously it went the way it did. So I was quite pleased. Maybe I had my positive specs on.
Yeah, you were ultimately proved right. As I think the 2 pivotal moments occur in the next sort of 2 minutes from after that. The 57th minute, we finally get the second, which is Miofsky. Dio basically sets the ball on the plate for him again, right on the edge of that box. There seemed to be a real identifiable to me part of play, Marty, where we were getting it to that sort of edge of the box area, particularly centrally as well, getting it to players there. And as I say, it then came down to whether or not they could get decent shots off. And first half, we weren't quite managing it, but Miofsky manages it there and gets a nice goal for himself after what had been a frustrating game for him.
Yeah, I mean, nicely in at the corner, not really giving the goalkeeper a chance to save that. And I think what made it harder for the goalkeeper was the fact that there were so many bodies in front of him. That was quite a trait from Kilmarnock, the fact that they sat with a lot of bodies in front of the goal past that 18-yard line. So it was an obvious thing to try. And I know it had been tried a few times. I kind of felt a wee bit for Diamonde because he tried a few times, but it was nice to see Miovski get that goal. And he took it well. He definitely took it well.
Yeah, you happy to see Miovski finally take a chance there, Stu? He's been a little bit hesitant in front of the goal for me in the last few games. Particularly the game after he'd gotten his hat trick, I was really thinking to myself, can he really kick on from here? But he just seemed to continue to be quite hesitant. So it was good to see him finally get another goal on the board, and hopefully that helps his confidence.
Absolutely agree with that. Yep, it was a good finish as well. Credit to Diomande as well for the assist, if I'm right. It was good to see him slotting home, and hopefully I feel like all the time we're just waiting for Miovski just to kick on, just to get that momentum. And I think he was unfortunate with injury because he was kind of doing that. So hopefully, again, this is him starting to build, kind of cement himself into the team as well. So he doesn't want to kind of be the forgotten man now that the new signs are coming in either. But yeah, I thought that was a good moment for him, and he took it well. And again, you felt it was coming. Surely he's going to finish one of these chances, and thankfully he did.
Absolutely. And just shortly after that, around about the 59th minute, I think the next sort of key moment, which is we make some substitutions. Tavernier comes off for Aarons, which I think was a decent sub. Tavernier had a decent game, but he was, I think, getting to the point of he'd been booked and he'd had a couple of challenges that maybe were on the edge of that. So I think that was a smart substitution. Gassama comes off for Skov Olsen. Gassama had, I think, also had a decent game. He'd been frustrating, but again, obviously he wins us the penalty, and he had done his normal sort of running at defence and almost doing something good. But then the one that I kind of wanted to focus on, Marty, was Asgard comes off for Nadiri. Asgard, I thought, was pretty anonymous in that game until coming off, and he's gone back to being a bit of a struggle. Though he's had a period where he's played a bit better than they had been, and arguably most importantly, he was getting a bunch of good goals. And it kind of felt like he was starting to kick on in the way that Moore had improved and Termiti had improved. But I'm a little bit worried that last couple of games he seems to be sinking back into that player that we were worried about in the first half of the season.
Yeah, he seems to build in confidence, and once he's got that confidence up, it's like he thinks to himself, "Oh, I can relax now." And it's when he relaxes that we then get these, what I would class as vacant performances. He's there, but he's not really there in the game. I mean, his passing wasn't particularly good. He didn't do much going forward either. So it was, for me, it was more than enough time for it to have an influence in the game, and he didn't perform to the level that would be expected. And obviously, his replacement obviously performed better when he came on. So yeah, he's definitely slipped again in the last few games, and he needs to find that consistency if he wants to make that position his, because there's more than enough cover now, and I think he's in danger of losing that position.
Yes, Stu. The manager either clearly sees something in him because he does keep playing him fairly regularly. But his position, like Marty says, could well come under threat with the new players now in the door. A number of our attacking options can play across the pitch in terms of right, left, or centre. So, do you see him losing his position if he carries on playing like this?
Absolutely. And as Marty alluded to, he had a great purple patch there, and he was scoring some important goals. We were racking, especially because we were trying, gain back goal difference. So fair play for having that patch, but for him to have that, do you know what it is? It's complacency. And you can't have that at Rangers. You can't be a complacent guy. And I think that compounded by the fact that Barron's injury, I think he's probably benefited from the fact Barron's not been available to have the minutes that he's had. But with the new signings coming in, he'll be on a shaky peg. The performances can't continue, especially, I know people question Skov Olsen's performance in the Hibs game, but tonight he seems to really gain some traction. So yeah, unless Asgard ups it massively, I think he could be a limited performances soon.
I would agree with that completely. Just after the subs, Kelly, proved that they weren't still totally out of the game. They had a really good opportunity breaking down the left, crossed the ball in along the floor, and again they got a player there who's totally on his own, but he's stretching for it, and it goes wide. We then make another sub at 66 minutes. Magoma comes off, and Romans comes on, who I think, Marty, in a day when we've had quite a few players come on and play well, I think for quite a lot of people, and I've seen it in the comments in the earlier part of the pod there, a lot of people mentioning that this guy really impressed today. He came on, and for me, he looked like he'd been in the team for years. He just happened to have been out for a bit. Really impressive performance from him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was quite pivotal towards the end of the game. There was a lot of possession down that side. And if you look at his runs forward as well, he was quite clearly influencing the game at that point. And I do believe, if I listened to the commentary correctly, that it was because that they thought that it might be a slight knock to Magoma. So that's a detriment to Magoma, because he's been playing well and he's been one of the most consistent defenders for us. But now that we've actually seen Romans in person performing, I think Magoma is going to be another one that's going to struggle for minutes, because Romans, as was said quite early on in this comment, and one of the comments early on in this pod, is Barisic-esque in his performance and the way he's gone about his business today. So, yeah, I think that's one for the future for us, that we know we're going to get consistent runs and consistent good balls into the box from him. So, an exciting player to look forward to watching.
Indeed, Stu, as Marty said there, we've expected a lot from Magoma, but he's largely delivered in terms of consistent performances. He's not necessarily been amazing, but he's certainly not been poor. He's been consistently like that classic Papat 7 out of 10 that people kind of talk about. But do you think we've got the potential there to have an exciting battle between the two for that left back position?
Absolute credit to Magoma, a young man. He's come in and played that amount of games for us. Fair play to him, and he's contributed with driving runs, assists. He's had the odd goal. Actually, I think it's just one, but I don't know if it will be an exciting challenge, because I think Romans will quickly make that his jersey for Magoma to try and win back. I think he'll do that quite quickly. He just looked like an absolute star player. Again, not to use kind of cliche terms, he had a great engine on him, but he's just had that absolute athleticism. He's strong. He's got that kind of vision, and he looked, as you said, he looked like he'd been in the team for years. He didn't look like a guy who was struggling for fitness as he signed for us. So I do think Romans is going to take that jersey off Magoma, and Magoma maybe need to raise his game. Maybe that will help his development as well. It'll be Romans' jersey soon, I think.
So maybe exciting but short of a battle. But you're quite right. Magoma, 1 goal and 5 assists in all competitions this season. So he has contributed a wee bit in that respect. It wasn't long after that substitution until we got our next goal. First goal for Skov Olsen, Marty. He receives the ball from Moore, who we'll touch on at the end. I think there's quite a bit to say about him today. He recovers the ball and makes a smart little pass to Olsen, and he makes a really nice little finish into the top corner, because he has to kind of lift it over. I'm not quite sure if it was Miovski, but it was certainly a Rangers player anyway. He has to kind of lift it over them and into the top corner, which he does quite nicely.
Yeah, it was for his first Rangers goal, and especially at home as well. It was a well-taken finish, and credit to him for actually making that run to get to the end of that ball and take the shot on, because there's times where we've had wingers that have either stayed out in the wing or they've been in and they've had the ball at their feet. They're not wanting to pass it off and get it back to take a shot. For example, Gassama, he's quite happy to have it at his feet and take a shot on. So it's nice to see about a link-up play to allow the space to take those kind of shots on. So yeah, it was a well-taken finish and well-deserved for our new boy on that wing, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come from him.
Yes, absolutely. Let's hope so. We shout out to Mariella, sorry. Just put our comment up there. Watching from Ecuador. We had a viewer from Germany the other day, Ecuador today. So Rangers Journal, internationally renowned, clearly. So great to have you watching today, Marielle. Stu Skov Olsen, he'd had a little bit of criticism from his first couple of appearances, unwarranted in my opinion. He obviously hadn't played a lot of football. And he was always going to take maybe a few games to get into things. But today, I thought he came on and he looked immediately much brighter. He looked just that little bit sharper. And obviously, he gets his rewards with the goal.
Absolutely. He did look like he come on leaps and bounds from the first couple of appearances. And even with the way he took the goal, it's such a kind of, obviously put the ball out and he was like wanting it back right away. And then the space he ended up in was so tight feet to take one touch and then get the shot off, and the angle for it, man. It was just a great goal to watch. It was an impressive finish.
Yep, really nice one there. We make another sub then. Miovski goes off and Ant-Man comes on, another player who has had a little bit of criticism lately. He's been out for a while, obviously, with injury, but comes on for that. We have another decent chance with Raskin putting a good cross sort of along the box, but we had no takers for that one, and the defenders cleared. Kilmarnock then get the goal that they'd sort of kind of threatened now and again to get, albeit not in the way that they had done so before. Butland has his monthly brain fart. Giga takes the ball near the corner flag, passes it back to Butland. Butland is trying to obviously just control it to presumably then turn and pass, but rather than controlling, he just lets the ball slide across his foot. And Kelty for Kilmarnock is basically going, "Oh, thanks very much," and he's got an open goal to pop the ball into. So a little bit disappointing there. Hopefully, Marty, that's Butland's, as I say, one brain fart a month out the way early for February.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I do feel for him because he'd had a relatively quiet game to that point, so he's obviously not been concentrating like he should, and he's made an error. We're all susceptible to errors, whether professional footballers or not. So I do feel for him in that sense, but it's known for Butland to make these odd mistakes, and luckily enough, the game was already gone by that point, so it wasn't a crucial goal for us to lose. But again, it's a Butland error that's crept in, which he's known to do over a season. So hopefully it doesn't dent his confidence and it doesn't drop further. Otherwise, we'll have to rely on Kelly again. Hopefully he'll not dwell on it too long and he'll be back to his super saving self again.
Yeah. Stu, Butland obviously, earlier in the season he was excellent. He kept us in a lot of games, and in some games kept us from losing in double figures. So he's certainly not a terrible goalkeeper, but he does have these little mistakes in him from time to time. But as Ibrox is saying there, best possible time for a brain fart. If he's going to make a mistake, make it in a game that we're en route to winning 5. Or scoring 5, then rather than something that's maybe a tighter.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it is a poor mistake to make, right? I think anybody who's ever thought about kicking a football in their life will be like, "Oh my God, that's honking." But at the same time, anybody who's played football in their life, if you're a goalie or if you're watching your defender going, "Don't make that pass. Don't make that pass. Why are you passing? Why are you putting that back in your own box?" So I do have sympathy for him because I think anything was better than that pass. So it put Butland under pressure, maybe unnecessarily. Honking mistake, no taking away from it, but I was watching it going, don't pass it. You see Giga look up to make it, you're like, don't. But he did, and then that's what happened. And that's why you don't do it.
Yep, absolutely. Just put that comment up there from Baron Lowe. We need to keep it to push Butland. I think he's getting too comfortable. I reckon Kelly will be giving him a decent push because Butland will remember that when he went out, Kelly came in and did well. Obviously, saving penalties in Europe and whatnot. So I'm sure that Kelly is doing a job there. But yes, ideally we would like Butland to keep his mind on the game. Nadiri came close to getting himself a debut goal before the end, but then in the 89th and 93rd we put in our last 2. A goal from Ant-Man, again a nice little place into the corner after good work from Moore and Romans, and then Moore got himself a goal in the 93rd minute to top off what I think was the man of the match performance. Marty Moore, for me, was all over the pitch, including in the first half. He was the one that looked like he would really make the difference. He was dynamic. He was always getting on the ball and driving with it. And as I say, for me, he really showed an all-round game today. and really showed what he can do and the difference that he can make for us when he's on top of his game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, his performances on the left are better than on the right, and he's shown that again tonight. And it was a well-deserved goal for his performance. I think he was getting a little bit tired towards the end there, but he deserved the goal and he got a goal. So I'm happy for him, and it's again another standout performance from him, which is pushing the team forward. I think he produced a lot more than Gassama did for us. So credit to him for his performance and a well-deserved goal, and for his performance overall, a well-deserved man of the match from, I believe, Rangers TV and the stadium, the sponsors. So well-deserved across the board for him.
Absolutely, yeah, we did get it from both. And was that a decision you agreed with, Stu?
Absolutely. I just thought he just looked absolute class. He's going to be a world beater someday. That's probably his best game in a Rangers jersey. The whole game from the first whistle to the last, he was just an absolute baller. Taking it by multiple opposition players, playing unselfishly as well. He could have probably taken more chances, but it was more about the team's performance rather than his own. So what a mentality for a young player to exhibit under the lights of Ibrox. But I think it would have been an absolute travesty had he not got a goal, and I'm so glad that he got it, especially in the style that he did.
Absolutely, and that wraps things up nicely there. I'll just say a quick shout out to our sponsor, the Bluebell Bar at Puerto del Carmen at Lanzarote. If you're out in that neck of the woods, do give them a look. Tell them Rangers Journal sent you, and you can have a good time there watching the football, and in particular all the Rangers games. I'll just finish. Our international viewer Marielle is asking us to wish her husband, also named Douglas, what an excellently named gentleman, a happy birthday. So happy birthday to your husband, Marielle. I hope he has a nice day, and hope he enjoyed the game tonight as well. That's a good present, a 5-1 victory, I think. So we'll wrap up on that one. Thanks to Marty and Stu for joining me this evening. Another great game. Now on to the cup game at the weekend. The Journal will obviously be around for that as well, with pre and post match content. We've got our usual Q&A coming up and the afternoon news show on Friday, so do tune in for all of that. And remember that every night is a Rangers Journal night.